The problems facing New Zealand's primary sector have been mounting at a rapid pace. So I think it's time for open hearts and open minds. Welcome to Sarah's Country on your Thursday night as we round out a month, could you believe it, of us being live daily. And it seems to be going not too bad at all. I mean, the feedback that we're getting has been incredible, that you are enjoying it, of course, around the globe. Global audience, great engagement across 10 plus platforms. What could a girl ask for more, hey? And of course, we've got some pretty damn hot guest lists as well. I have always subscribed to the theory when producing a show that the best show is the best because it has the best guests. And of course, that is no exception tonight, as well as a great lineup of talent and topics. And I'll be getting into who's who on the show a bit later. Now, if you're finding yourself getting a bit bogged down in the constant negativity in the news right now due to the coronavirus pandemic, you have come to the right place. In Sarah's Country, I really wish it wasn't just in times of crisis that we get to experience the best of humanity. And you know what? The love stories that have merged across our New Zealand sites. Ashley Bloomfield shared his favourite love song that reminded him of his wife today. Bless. And there was an elderly couple that died together of COVID-19, holding hands. It's just gorgeous. And I know that, of course, this is a food and farming show. But amongst all this love, experts have suggested that despite being locked inside, you're not actually going to see a coronavirus baby boom, as some have described, the coronials, the quarantinis, or my favourite, the baby zoomers. As the experts say, lots of babies are born out of wedlock and couples not living together, so social distancing has certainly got in the way of baby making. There is always a method to my madness. We're talking after 7:30 to a very smart man, Professor David Williams, who is pivoting from the invention of inline milk testing to building a test for COVID. And funnily enough, invented the human strip pregnancy test. So there you go. Now, on the theme of baby making and to celebrate our New Zealander of the Year, Ashley Bloomfield, I'm sure he's going to get it. Tonight, I want to get your ideas on your favourite love songs. Yes, and even, like, what is it? The best love songs that you and your partner's song. What was your first song at your wedding, your first dance song? I mean, I know I'm going on a tangent, but I know I'm going to get it out of you like I'm going to get it out of our guests. A full male lineup too. I will let you have. Don't worry, this is a serious agricultural show with some esteemed topics, but let's have some fun. Why not? Right, so if you've just tuned into Sarah's Country for the first time on podcast or live as a TV show in all your social feeds in alliance with Farmers Weekly, I say welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to do so. As of course, there's only so much time in a day, 24 hours, and so if you spend 1 hour of that with me, I am eternally grateful. What is coming up tonight, Sarah? Get to the point. A lot of innovation and leadership. Kicking off the show, I've been looking forward to catching up with Glen Herud from the Happy Cow Milk Company about his approach towards being consumer-centric with our New Zealand farm management practices. And he has new technology he's about to implement to bring more transparency to his truth-telling, as I like to call it, not storytelling. Glen will join us after 7:20. And towards the end of the show, we have a good discussion about glyphosate use in New Zealand with Nuffield scholar and Methven arable farmer Hamish Marr. I'd love your questions for Hamish because he has done a world research report effectively on the social perception around glyphosate and how New Zealand needs to be warned, use it properly or lose it. And to kick off the show tonight, I'm really looking forward to discussing a range of topics with a CEO of Farmlands, Peter Reidie. So we'll be back shortly to get Peter on the line and kick off the show.
G'day, I'm James Stewart. I'm a dairy farmer in the mighty Manawatu. We've had a pretty tough summer with drought conditions this year, and now we're facing a lot of uncertainty and disruption with the COVID-19 virus. So while we can continue to farm on, we really want to acknowledge and thank the people that are helping us get on with what we're doing. So from the truck drivers, the factory workers, the distribution networks that are putting the produce and food around the country and the globe, a big thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Richard Lowry.
I'm Josh.
I'm Hayden.
We just want to give a big shout out to all you freezing workers. We feel extremely grateful and pleased that you're continuing to do your job under these difficult circumstances. If you weren't, lambs like these wouldn't be getting processed for people, farmers like us. And without that, we're in trouble, and the whole of New Zealand will be, and big parts of the world, because we'll very, very quickly be hungry.
Hi, I'm Marina. We're sheep and beef farmers in Waiau, North Canterbury, and I just wanted to acknowledge the work of the men and women in our processing plants around New Zealand who are helping to take our product from the farm and offer it up to the tables in New Zealand.
Hi, I'm Will Taylor. I'm a sheep farmer in the Manawatu. I just wanted to say a big shout out and a big thank you to all of the meat processors and truck drivers who have been helping to take our meat off farm and get it onto the supermarket shelves. We all know that farmers have gone through a pretty tough drought lately, and now with the COVID-19 going on, we've still got a lot of stock on farm that we need to get rid of and get onto supermarket shelves and onto everybody's plates for dinner at the end of the day.
We know a fella that's still getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and heading off for his day's work like he always does, and he's pretty happy about that. And yeah, that's cool.
I also want to acknowledge the on-farm supplies that are still able to come out onto our farms, and the breakdown crews. Without you guys, we couldn't do our jobs.
We just want to say thank you. Without you guys doing your bit, what we do here doesn't count.
Without the meat workers and the truck drivers, we'd all be going a wee bit hungry, so a big thank you to you guys. You do make a bloody good job of getting our meat out to our local supermarkets and the international markets, so thank you again.
Just keep up the hard work and we'll all get through this together. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So cheers, thank you very much, and stay safe.
So thanks.
So just a few little technical difficulties, but nothing in, a day's work really. I'm loving how you're getting amongst this music commentary that we're running tonight. Bit of love songs, a few baby making tunes. Now, of course, Far North JB has said she loves New Zealand music. UB40, Can't Help Falling in Love with You. And Michael Ross, Nat King Cole, Unforgettable. Oh, it just makes you want to sing them. Now, I was actually thinking I would share some of my favourite songs, and Joel's, of course, he's a wee romantic young Joel, but you should see the look on his face. We got in trouble last night because we tried to play some music on our live stream, and Sony Music wasn't very happy with us. It was Fred Dagg's We Don't Know How Lucky We Are. And I had good intentions. I was literally just trying to keep the spirits of rural New Zealand high, of course, but no. So unfortunately we can't share, Sarah's Country Countdown or top 10 love songs tonight. So I want to know, and I'm going to actually fire these to our guests. Would you believe it? No one's out of reach for me. CEOs, ministers, I'll put silly questions to them like what their favourite love song is. Whilst we just wait to get Peter Reidie, the CEO of Farmlands, up on the phone, because I think we've got a bit of an internet connection issue going on. I certainly want to turn your attention to something that's been extremely popular on Farmers Weekly, and if you haven't taken the time to subscribe, it is known as the Daily Digest. It has seen a record number of people being able to easily consume the latest rural news that is happening around the country daily into your inbox. So you don't have to wait to the paper on Monday. How's that for technology? And of course, a lot of interesting technologies that are either being invented now or, as I'm going to be talking soon to Peter, have been around for the last decade. And this COVID-19 has really just given us a kick up the bum to get on and use what is going to make our life more efficient. And I can see Peter down on my screen. Joel, is he coming through clearly?
Just about, yep.
Wonderful. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Not bad at all, Sarah. Yourself?
Good. Now, this current global disruption has highlighted the emergence in not only supply chain logistics with our exports, but what it takes to run a country with, of course, our imports being that supply and demand of ships coming in and out. Sorry, Peter. And of course, as I was just saying there before, it's helped embed a new consumer behaviour into a new norm. Even though through technology has been around for decades, especially like e-commerce and shopping online, we've got lots to discuss with Peter. How's your connection there, Peter? Oh, it's a lot of fun, this game of live television. Shall we chat Peter on the phone? Yeah. How can you hear us there, Peter? Oh, I'm so looking forward to his love song. I know it's going to be good. And so I'm looking now across all the platforms, and of course I want to see yours, because while we're talking about it, Ashley Bloomfield and New Zealander of the Year, you'd think, Sarah, come on, there could have been easier things to talk about. But I certainly want to get your ideas of what is coming up. Or also, too, we have a lot of innovation coming out of the primary sector at the moment. Let us know what is something that you've seen recently that you're most proud of that we have finally got round to. Is it online stock trading? You know, is it being able to utilise, have better relationships through technologies like Zoom? Of course, we will be speaking about e-commerce and how Farmlands have been able to provide that click and collect service. But of course, among other things, Farmlands are a huge $2 billion company that underpin a lot of the rural service advice and products across New Zealand. And I can see that Peter's going to the phone. That's a big piece of technology. Talking about technology, could you please give a thumbs up if you still have a landline? Joel still has a fax machine.
Yeah, no, I don't have a landline.
Oh, Peter's there. Good. All right, we've got him. You don't have a landline. Do you have a fax machine?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. So we are with technology. We're connected. We have CEO for Farmlands, Peter Reidie, on the phone. Now, of course, before we kick into things, Peter, I've hyped it up enough. I know you're a big softie. What's a special song that's dear to your heart?
Well, I have to say two, actually.
Ooh.
The first being A Good Southern Man and from Southland. The song that gets Southland rocking is Wagon Wheel.
Oh, God.
And every time we start an event, Wagon Wheel roars and then the crowd gets going. So we love Wagon Wheel.
Cool.
Rock Me Mama Like a Wagon Wheel is a very romantic line in Southland.
Mm.
And then my own favourite song is a song called Me and Bobby McGee, which is written by Chris Christopherson and has amazing words like freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. And a line I love is, I'd trade all my tomorrows for a single yesterday to hold Bobby's body next to mine.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Absolutely. And Chris Christopherson, what an absolute legend. I'm glad you said that and not, of course, oh, goodness me, the lady that died, Janis Joplin.
Janis Joplin.
Because that's the thing with Wagon Wheel. Everyone thinks Darius Rucker sung it, but it was actually Old Crow Medicine Show. So just in case we're going to clarify that.
And actually written by Bob Dylan, which is another trivial pursuit on Wagon Wheel.
Huh, fun fact. I didn't think anyone was ever going to teach me anything about country music, Peter. We've got another whole conversation to have here. Hey, now, of course, we've got quite a few topics to get through and a little bit of time there connecting you, but let's get straight into it. Can you give us a bit of an understanding, because Farmlands is at such scale in terms of our inputs into our farming operation from our global markets, especially things like fuel, how has supply chains been and through this lockdown over the last month?
Yes, I mean, as we're talking to you today, Sarah, right now, supply has been very, very strong and very, very good. And we have been in a position where generally there hasn't been anything we've been able to supply. Now, because we are working to international supply chains and things can go up and things can go down in that process, who knows what may happen 3 months from now. But right now, the pitch is pretty strong, and all of our suppliers are indicating that they can supply us what we're asking for.
And of course, fuel is a large part of your business. Obviously, we saw some historic lows with the stockpiling in the US. It's a crazy time.
Yes, it's interesting. And I actually just walked past the service station on a walk round tonight, and diesel was 85 cents. 85 cents. The fuel has definitely come down dramatically. And as anyone who's walked out on a road or on a street, there isn't a lot of traffic movement even under level 3. So there's no problems getting supply of fuel. And in fact, that's one of the challenges of our business, in fact, being able to supply enough fuel because obviously the market is considerably down.
Now, there's actually a girl who works for Farmlands in one of the stores here in Christchurch that lives on the farm, and we're having a bit of a yarn about it in the weekend, and she said it's just crazy because all of a sudden everybody's gone on to your online store of something that had been around for a while but just not supported, and all of a sudden it's become a part of their everyday. How has that been for your team to turn that around in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, just a shout out to the wonderful Farmlands people who have had to really respond and do things do the same thing in terms of supplying our farms, but doing it in a very different way in terms of how we've had to do it. And one of those different ways is actually to open up an e-commerce store we're calling COVID Click and Collect. We had an e-commerce store that we actually shut down in December on the back of some new technology we were introducing, and we couldn't mix the old with the new. So plan was actually to bring it in July as we started a new financial year. But this crisis forced us to expedite a little bit quicker than that. And so we put COVID Click and Collect out there in 3 weeks, which is quite a huge, fast time frame and a great effort from everyone. And that service, in its first week, did 4 times what the previous offer we had did in 12 months. So I don't think that's just an indication of a better website. It's an indication of how much more our client base, our farmers, are using the technology, as we all are.
And this is the thing. What is it, 21 days to create a habit, Peter? You'd be probably quite happy to have a good consumer training period to get used to a new normal business.
But there is nothing like a little bit of necessity to allow us to pick up something new, isn't it? I mean, Technology is challenged in that it has to give us a benefit, a quick benefit for us to adopt it, unless we have to use it. And in recent times, we've had to use it, and that's definitely resulted in some change of behaviour. No, I think it will continue to be the case. I think that will be locked in behaviour from now on.
You make a very valid point there. We talk a lot about the interoperability of a lot of these softwares across the sector, and you make a very good point. If it's not quick to understand the value of, then people will not adopt it. And yeah, absolutely. Well done. Peter, you've been in the role now for a couple of years, and I mean, you're obviously sitting at quite a high leadership position, What are you seeing is needed at global thinking of our leaders right now to actually navigate this unprecedented time and not rely on government?
Yep. Well, I would start with that word global. I mean, it is very, very easy to get into our shell and look inward and say what's going on around us and how do we change just that. The opportunity for New Zealand is the globe, is the world. And I do really think we have an incredibly positive story. You look how well we've responded to this, how our country's coming through the other side already, and it has had minimal damage caused to it. And I think that can be used as a story to say it's part of what we do, it's part of how we behave, it's part of the great environment we have and the great country we have and the attitude of the people. And the same thing, that all of that attitude, all of that great country goes into our amazing products off the land. And so let's tell that story and let's tell the world what great products we have and get the globe buying us. That's the opportunity for sure.
New Zealand is so turning inwards, though, to look to the rural sector to pull our economy through. But as I heard Mike Peterson on Talkback last night saying, clearly, rural's not suffering either. And what do we need to be able to back our own community to help our wider economy?
Well, I think the reality is the ag sector or the primary sector has been the backbone of New Zealand for some time. I think that over the last 2 or 3 years we've sort of lost a little bit of sight of that. And one good thing that has come out of the crisis is that we've all been reminded about how important what our landowners do for us as a country and how they earn those expert earnings which allow us to pay for the things that we're seeking to do. So that's got to continue, and we've got to say, let's keep on that, but at the same time, let's embrace the things that people are talking about, like advocating New Zealand produce over and above overseas. But at the same time, I think we've got to bear in mind we are selling to an international world, and we want that international world to embrace our products. So at the same time, I think there's got to be a bit of quid pro quo, and we shouldn't be shutting down other products, particularly if they're better. And that's what New Zealand can sell to the world, better products, and New Zealand should be prepared to take on better products in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Some wise words there from CEO of Farmlands Cooperative, Peter Reidie. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to join us. And I will certainly have you back on the show with your excellent music commentary.
Thanks, Sarah. Sorry about the disruption with the technology. We did rehearse and we had a plan, but it didn't quite come through. Next time.
No, absolutely. Next time. I can't wait. We'll have you in the studio, though, live, when we get over this lockdown. It'll be great.
I'll be very, very happy to see you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Peter. Now, if you've just joined Serious Country for the first time, the benefit about Serious Country is that we really ensure that we engage on all platforms, either live or on demand, with our audience. So, of course, if you haven't subscribed to the Serious Country podcast, it's across wherever you get your podcasts. This is an interactive show. I can see questions across all of the platforms, and I'm loving that you're loving talking about music tonight. Yeah, spin-off show, Julie, Serious Country Music. Oh, I'll work on that, don't you worry. Next on Serious Country, we're talking about how to be more consumer-centric with our storytelling with Glen Herud from Happy Cow Milk. And of course, Joel, you're going to have to share us your favourite love song. This is Serious Country.
Growing a better world takes courage. It takes foresight and vision. It's about dreaming big, then being brave enough to follow that dream through. To create a world where food is plentiful, soils are healthy, and rivers run crystal clear. A world where we grow more with less, where livestock is tended to with care. Energy is friend, not foe, and waste is a valuable resource. This is the world you're already shaping through imagination, innovation, and determination. So as small steps become huge leaps, you move boldly forward. And Rabobank is there beside you to help grow a better world together.
So as I promised, of course, Joel Rock, if you've just joined us, he's my Irish producer. He's a real softie, Joel. The way he tells me how he loves and dotes over his partner, Sarah. So, of course, I know that you'll be having a favourite love song stored up your sleeve there, Joel.
I quite like that one, Love Song by that woman whose name I've forgotten. That one, the one about not writing a love song. Big fan of that one.
Yes, absolutely. No, Fantastic, Joel. That's just one of the bobs. Sorry, I was just busy thinking about something else. Of course, my love song, which I'll share with you later on. Silver linings are everywhere, and if we're open to seeing them. This was a headline I read, one of Glen Herud's opinion pieces, and along with a podcast episode I listened to featuring Glen's business journey. I really loved his attitude to business that has shared similar veins actually to my own. We know there is a better way that the consumer wants to consume, yet the legacy type infrastructure of the glory days has gone and stood in the way of us achieving that until the day breaks and the consumer becomes the everything. Glen Herud from Happy Cow Milk Company joins us now from his Happy Cow Milk bunker, I understand.
That's where we are. We're in the bunker.
It's a very good-looking bunker there, Glen. Now, of course, you were listening in there before, so I'll throw you under the bus. What is your favourite love song?
It's not really a love song, more like the 90s rap, Funky Cold Medina by Tone Rock.
Okay, yeah, okay, one out of the box. It's nice. It's nice to hear a whole genre of different types of love songs. There's love songs across all genres. It's not just, of course, country. Now, Glen, let's get onto, of course, your amazing journey that I was just saying there with Happy Cow Milk. Just the audience that haven't heard of your business, and of course, as we were saying before, Sarah's Country is global, I have you know. So could you please share us your business journey until now?
Oh, well, the basis of it is that we sort of see around the world smaller farmers are really going out of business, particularly in the US and Europe, and farms are getting larger and larger, and that's really making it more difficult for younger people to go and get into agriculture. So that was the start of it. So we started thinking, how could we go dairy farming with like 50 cows or something like that? And the obvious answer is if you could sell your milk direct, which sounds easy, but it's much harder in practice. So we started the journey of trialing that, and we sort of went for about 4 years. And well, we just found it was a lot more expensive to set up than we had and I had hoped. And we were growing really, really fast, but we just ran out of capital. So we ended up shutting down. And the community supported us a lot, and we were able to keep going with donations from the public. They wanted to see, I suppose, a different way of doing dairy. And last November, we raised $400K to relaunch Happy Cow, which I hope to do this winter.
What's it taught you? Was it timing, or was it what was your main business learning through that period to now?
It was really the unsexy stuff is difficult. It's like it's distribution, it's value chains, it's retailers, dealing with retailers. It's all the back end things. It's the invoicing, purchasing orders, the admin, all these little costs that all add up along the way that you sort of underestimate.
And with that 400,000, all good capital raising comes not with just the money, but of course the networks and expertise of those top level investors and board that are taking you forward. What are some of those special key people that believe in Happy Cow's concept?
Well, at the core, we did a crowdfunding round, so it was really the Happy Cow fans, and you will have about 500 odd people invested around $800 each. And we've got a really good board. We've got a great group of people around New Zealand who have always been quite interested in what we're doing and wanted to see a change. Melissa Clark-Reynolds and, now you put me on the spot.
No, but that's okay, Glen. But I mean, the thing is that there is some key people that are getting in behind the concept of Happy Cow. I don't think we clearly sort of covered off that start about those fundamental things, but let's talk about businesses being more consumer centric, and you saying that it's more than just saying you are.
Yeah, the interesting thing that I gathered was, when I started, I thought I knew what customers wanted. I thought I knew what the public mood was. And just over the years, we just had hundreds and thousands of customers, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of customers emailing me and messaging me just about every day. And you get a really good understanding of where they're coming from and what their concerns are. And I think as farmers, we have the curse of too much knowledge, and we know so much about farming. and we don't. We sometimes lose track of how simplified we need to keep it to communicate with the public. And our cow and calf practice of leaving our cows with their mothers was, it just really picked itself. Our customers really picked that up and promoted it, and that's really what we've become known for now.
No, you absolutely nailed it on the head when you're saying that about simplifying it for the consumer. We put so much emphasis on they don't understand, and that that's consumers' fault, where we forget that, of course, we wouldn't be in business if the consumer didn't understand to transact.
Yeah. I think the thing we don't think about is we can get our story out, or we can get the facts out, or whatever, but the real issue is how do we make it so that the customer actually wants to hear the facts? Because unless it's interesting to them, unless they actually want to do it, they're not going to just jump online and think, what do dairy farmers think about this? So when they're consuming a product, we want, like milk, they really have that interest in how it's been, or who's producing it, if you give them that information. So what we're trying to do is connect local farmers to supply their local market. So and then put customers directly in touch with the local farmer.
I'm really interested to know. I've been following you on Instagram, Glenn, and it's just so nice to see that sort of spring back in your steps since obviously that, let's just call it, just a little blip in the system of your journey. You are looking at implementing some new technology to be able to connect the producer and the consumer. I'm really looking forward to hearing a bit more about that.
Yeah, so basically we've designed a system. We call it a milk factory in a box, and it's really revolves around a tank about the size of a dishwasher, and it sits inside a hub, and it's on a dairy farm, and you might have 5 or 6 of these tanks inside the hub, and it's basically controlled by an iPad. And the idea around is, how do we take the complexity out of milk processing and the risk out of milk processing? So farmers would fill these tanks up with raw milk, push the button, they'll be pasteurized, and then they take those whole tanks into town and they become milk dispensers. And anyone can buy milk from that tank as long as they have the Happy Cow app.
Wow. So I'm imagining the setup that's in Riverside Market in Christchurch, where you can go in and being able to pour from there. But then there'd be some food safety elements to it, I would imagine, of where you could be selling that, obviously beyond the farm gate.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole thing, what we really are doing is we're digitizing compliance. It's regulatory compliance, and we're just putting everything into a system that only works one way, that can't work another way, and it's so and then reports automatically to the cloud. And we're taking that food processing regulatory burden off the farmer, really.
Well, fantastic. Really looking forward to following your journey. And this is Glen Herud from Happy Cow Milk. Of course, you can follow them across social platforms as well, and have a bit of a look about their business model, which is evolving with a great team of advisors. Now, if you'd like to take Sarah's Country in your pocket and simply listen to us, you can on audio, and there's a live radio feed. Easiest way is go to sarahperium.com, click on the live stream button, and you'll be able to find that. Enjoying your engagement tonight. Tony Watson's an active, engaged audience member. No, but I like what Tony's got here. He said, heaps more farmers are using electronic ASD forms for livestock movements, which is about flaming time. No one should have to the truck driver hand to the truck driver a piece of paper these days. I totally agree with you, Tony. I can't believe it hasn't been picked up fast enough. There will be a lot more compliance, and of course from a biosecurity perspective, we all understand why we need to be doing that. Coming up after the break, we're joined by a scientific co-founder of Orbis, Professor David Williams, on how they are using science technology to test the immunity of cows from their milk, and pivoting now into finding a rapid test for COVID-19. This is Sarah's Country. Now, of course, in Ceres Country, we love innovation, and this is the most opportune time for us to, of course, innovate when we're forced to, not only vertically within our own industry, but cross-industry. The Auckland-based university spin-out, co-founded by award-winning scientists Professor David Williams and Professor Cather, have been involved in pivoting, of course, their science in animal testing through into a rapid test for COVID-19, and Professor David Williams joins us now. Evening, sir. How are you?
Oh, good to see you, Sarah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Now, this is off the back of an article where you're looking to raise over $5 million to validate a diagnostic system. It's been along the similar lines that you have been working in the dairy industry on. Would you be able to explain that?
Well, sure. So, Cather and I have been working for some years on how to understand how to measure the state of your cows, the health status and the reproductive status and the nutritional status from measurements you can make on their milk. And this system is designed for moving animals through a cowshed. So time sensitive, difficult environment, minimal intervention, and it needs to be very accurate, and it's a quite tricky measurement. And so along comes COVID, and people said to us, well, you could use that for measuring the antibodies, the immune status. So why don't you give it a go? And so that's what the company's now raising the money for. Sort of people like cows, birds through airports.
Yes, absolutely. We've got lots to learn from each other, that's for sure, in nature. David, the individual testing of what you're suggesting is of course, to eliminating a disease is not as simple as the first time round, as we experienced in the Spanish flu in the 1918, where it came back a second time. What have you learnt from animal diseases and how testing can be similar when it comes to human disease outbreaks?
Well, this is what we're doing is about trying to understand immunity and infectiousness. So this is measuring the stuff in your blood from your immune system that your body produces to fight the infection. And the methodologies are very similar to the types of measurements that we've been making in milk for cows. And so we're just adapting that. So measuring natural molecules that are in your body that are helping you fight the infection.
And I like a quote here that it's obviously not as dirty and mucky, the area of working with humans, as it is of working with cows as you're trying to measure them.
Yes, but it requires really robust methods, really robust equipment. So trying to design something for a cowshed really actually puts you on the spot. You're trying to do a kind of interesting and delicate and sensitive chemical measurement. You're trying to do it in a cowshed, so you've got to think pretty hard about how to do that. And of course, the people who are doing the measurement, they don't want to know about this, right? They just want the result. They don't want to interfere at all, and they don't want it to interfere with their workflow. And so when you think about how you're trying to do immunity testing for people, you want to do exactly the same thing. You don't want to have things where somebody has to come up to you, prick your finger and all this kind of business. And fiddle around putting something on a strip.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really want to talk to you a little bit about investment into science, and of course, it's utilised the words university spin-out. First time I've heard that, but you're working as a scientific co-founder at Orbis, and there's a lot of news around how we need to be putting a lot more funding into science in general. This is probably a time where it's highlighted that.
Yeah, that's right. And I think what motivates me and Cather and quite a lot of people like us is if you're doing scientific work, you have in view an end. You want to see your work turn out and get used. And how's that going to happen? Well, one way of doing that that's very effective is to start new companies. And that really kind of turns me on, because what does it do? It gives jobs for young people, creates growth and employment, and then I get this real kick about seeing work that I've done turn into something practical and useful that's doing something that people want to know about. I get a big kick out of that, and it's great being able. A university allows you to do this pretty well as well.
I think that you're a man that I can ask this question to. What frustrates you about science being locked up and not being allowed to be commercialised, or the funding isn't going into commercial focused science? Sort of researchers' pet projects.
Well, there's always a problem, right? You have to persuade people that what you're trying to do is worthwhile. And so you can get frustrated when people don't believe you. That's basically what it boils down to. And so you just have to keep on at it. There's no other jurisdictions, other countries seem to have more money sloshing around, but that's okay. You've got to think a bit harder.
That's what makes us Kiwis. We have a limited budget and we come up with amazing things.
Hopefully, yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Professor David Williams out of the University of Auckland's spin out into Orbis, which is a company working closely now on a COVID-19 test, rapid test that's come out of course, animal science. Now, coming up after the break, talking about science and perception, we are going to be joined by 2019 Nuffield scholar Hamish Marr and what he has termed, Can We Live Without Glyphosate? This is Sarah's Country.
Every morning, Kiwi farmers wake up to produce high quality food. Yet, every night, some Kiwi families are going to sleep hungry. Meet the Need is a charity founded by farmers, and it's here to change all that. We're about New Zealand farmers feeding New Zealand families by donating a small part of what we grow when we can. You can help us make sure no one in New Zealand goes to sleep hungry again. Visit meettheneed.org and follow us on social.
Even when everything changes, some things will always stay the same. The cows still need milking, the economy still needs dairy, and dairy farmers will always have what it takes. Whatever you need to keep milking, our job during the lockdown is to get it to you, because we know what it takes.
Aotearoa, New Zealand has always been a land that has provided for its people, a land of abundance and opportunity. Our dedicated team at Ag Research know that embracing kaitiakitanga will see this continue for future generations. The work we do is transforming the way we farm and revolutionizing the way New Zealanders care for our animals and for our land. We work hard to create the world's most desirable food and bio-based products through smart, sustainable farming, led by some of the world's most phenomenal research and informed by the consumers who benefit from this passion. Through a focus on environmental sustainability and climate change initiatives, this passion will allow our work to continue for generations to come. Our proficiencies in research run wide, from seeds to pest control, high-value food production to practical farming systems and quality assurance. From the smallest rural land use project to international research programs, our science and technology innovations drive the prosperity of our precious agricultural sector. It's through this research that New Zealand retains its position as a scientifically advanced global agricultural leader. our commitment to the growth of our wider New Zealand economy, its people, and the kaitiakitanga of Aotearoa is at the very heart of every scientific innovation and creation we deliver. Ag research, firmly grounded in this land. These waters, looking to what's in the stars and the future. Ata Matai, Matai Whetu.
So, Roundup, is it our friend or is it our foe? It is one of the largest agrochemicals used across the world. Of course, can be contributed to the growth of world population by supplying food en masse, but at the same time challenged in courts of causing diseases and challenged politically across Europe. Very much have been looking forward to talking to our next guest, Hamish Maher, who's a Methven arable crop farmer and of course a recent Nuffield scholar who I have so much respect for, giving up the whole year to be able to go around the world and bring us back insights. And Hamish joins us now via phone. Good evening, Hamish.
Good evening, Sarah. How are you?
Good. We're just having one of those nights, Hamish, to be fair. I mean, we had your beautiful video there, but at the end of the day, it's your wonderful worldly research that we're here to hear as well. So firstly, I mean, could you summarise for us what was your main sort of taking an opinion that strongly came out of that topic? How can we live without glyphosate?
In short, we lived without glyphosate before, so we could farm without it. But we couldn't feed the world without it as we are now. We're very fortunate in this country that we've got animals involved in our agriculture and that pastoral farming sort of dominates the agricultural landscape. So our usage of glyphosate in New Zealand is very low compared to a lot of other countries, where arable farming dominates the outdoor part of farming and animals are housed. So for all intents and purposes, our farming systems are so unique globally that we're in a pretty good position.
So one of the interesting things, I didn't go through Lincoln, even though we're broadcasting here from Lincoln University, so I'm always a student every single day, is around Roundup Ready crops in the US. So that blanket application is obviously, if something's so cheap and effective, why not just blanket it over and then create resistance to that weed killer? New Zealand is positioned differently, but yet in your research around the world, perception is so ingrained to even pull back from the use of things full stop.
Definitely, yeah, perception is everything, and so there's a fair element of GMO that is such a good news story, and it started with what they call BT crops, where they modified corn and soy to naturally resist a bug, the corn borer bug. And so instead of farmers using insecticide, the crop would naturally turn off or resist the attack from the bugs. And so there was a huge saving. In the mid-90s, when they developed Roundup Ready crops, again, the idea was that instead of using harsh chemicals in America like atrazine, 2,4-D, we'll go to a softer chemistry, Roundup, which is a benign, or the science tells us it's a benign, low residue chemical, and we'll swap out the harsh chemistry for the softer alternative, and we're going to produce safe food. Unfortunately, the perception isn't that way at all, and the general public, have the perception that GM and Roundup are responsible for a lot of bad things within people. It's a real shame.
How do you suggest that New Zealand navigates this position of being able to still use glyphosate to a point and us being able to measure and accredit that to a fact?
I think in the arable industry particularly, in New Zealand, arable and horticulture and forestry are the big users of Roundup. But I think what we've got to do as farmers is we've got to identify where in our rotations Roundup or glyphosate is of the most benefit and concentrate there. and trying to eliminate the usage as much as we can. In saying that, we have to explain as farmers why we're doing things for the public more, I think. And that comes back to what you were saying before, Sarah, about perception. A lot of perceptions based on misguided information. I mean, farmers haven't done anything wrong at all. We're doing as we're told, but the perception is that we're bad people in a lot of cases, when actually we're just doing as we're told.
And a part of the regenerative agricultural movement, they're actively, obviously, wanting to reduce their reliance on glyphosate, but still feel it's an important part of being able to still farm. So it's obviously a strong movement that's coming from a lack of understanding of farming. But as I was speaking earlier with Glen Herud, how do we simplify that for the consumer to understand?
I don't know. I mean, farming is so simple, really. We put things in the ground, they grow, and we harvest them. But the actual day-to-day, what goes on a farm and the decisions that farmers make is so complicated. Excuse me, the reasons why we do things can change, minute by minute. And so how we can convey that message to the general public is a real challenge. I mean, I don't really know.
Nuffield Scholarship is absolutely a prestigious, Hamish, and you obviously got the opportunity to travel to many countries around the world. What were some of those standout countries where you saw policy come into play and effectively have a negative effect?
Oh, without a doubt, Sarah, Europe. So in Europe, politics rules what goes on farm. I mean, I know we haven't got much time. That's a big topic in itself, but I mean, in a nutshell, the political movement has dictated the way farmers can operate to the point where they can no longer grow crops because of insect migration. They cannot produce milling wheat with high enough proteins to produce flour because of restrictions on nitrogen use. I mean, Denmark, for example, reduced its nitrogen limit, and they found over time that they had to import flour from Germany because their locally grown flour wasn't good enough for milling grain, for milling into flour, and that their pigs and cattle were taking longer than what was satisfactory to finish. So they were exporting low-grade wheat and importing high-grade wheat, and that has just changed. It's just one example.
Wow. That's all I can actually say. Absolutely. So wherever there's an action, there's a reaction, and that's a huge example of that.
Yes, there's absolutely a reaction. I mean, I saw in France where they had changed the regulations around neonicotinoid insecticides, and so I went to a farm that had been producing high-grade radish seed for many, many years, and the day I was visiting, they had a tractor in this field, a massive field of beautiful radish, and they were mulching it out because the flea beetles had moved in, and this crop had not even flowered. So, there's absolutely a reaction to everything.
Do you think, Hamish, from what you've seen, obviously you were travelling in 2019 to 2020, huge things can happen in a week in 2020.
Yes.
Economic survivability, as we discussed with Penny Clark-Horn, the social licence to operate, wins over the self-awareness that has come from these ideological theories. We saw it this week from the States, like they're flat out having to cull cows across the States because of the supply chain interruption of COVID-19. And my question is coming to you around that shift when it comes to hunger and understand. Then the food system is so much more important to understand. And does it have to come to that, which is sad? Well,
it's funny, Sarah. Farmers will stand up. When we're talking together, that's one of the first things we say. We need a good famine or a pandemic to make people realise how important farming is. But, the farming, the food system and the supply chain of that is so complicated, and it only takes one thing like we've seen for it to fall over and break down that, it has lasting ramifications, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I have to ask you, how's the season been in Methven?
We had very good harvest, but we've been a particularly dry autumn. I think winter feed going forward is going to be tight for winter grazing and lamb finishing. But beautiful day. I mean, we couldn't have got a better autumn. We just need a bit more rain.
Absolutely. Very balmy days with a bit of moisture would have struck. So you don't have any spare hay bales lying around for a few Hawke's Bay friends?
Probably haven't got one spare bale, I don't think. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just thought I'd ask. Everybody is asking. Hamish, what a year it's been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time, Hamish. And as Hamish said, this is a very long conversation that we could get into, dissecting and unpacking his Nuffield report there around how are we able to live without glyphosate, because if we don't explain glyphosate, we may lose the licence to use it. Now, that is all we've had time for tonight. Really enjoying seeing some new faces who have joined on the live stream. Thank you so much for even popping in and out throughout the stream. If there is anything that you have missed, of course, Sarah's Country Podcast is right there for you on demand, as well as the Farmers Weekly YouTube channel as well, for you to catch up on demand whenever you like. Now, I'd like you to send me in your suggestions, of course, for guests, sarah@periummedia.com, or, of course, you can drop into the inbox on the social media. Honestly, it works. People drop in and they literally are like, oh, I didn't think I was going to be on the show the next night. Well, that's how I operate. So good night and go well. And if you are in need of a bit of pick-me-up, chuck on a good love song. This is Sarah's Country.